Hey, everybody! Here we are. It is the December Salon. It is Christina Chu's fond farewell salon. This is going to be the best salon you've ever seen. You wait. You wait. You wait and see. Do you know who we're saying goodbye to? I am going to read her bio. She doesn't even know I'm going to do this, but here's what I'm doing. Christina, who we love, is the grand prize winner of the James Allen McPherson Award for her novel Beauty. She is also the author of Troublemaker and Other Saints. Troublemaker was alternate selection for a couple of big awards and a nominee for the BOMC First Fiction Award, and she won the Asian American Literary Award. So, hey. And she's the recipient of the Robert Simpson Fellowship, the alternate selection of the Book of the Month Club, the Van Leer Fellowship. She won the Newstone Circle Fiction Contest, the second place of the Playboy Fiction Contest. She was nominated for the Stephen Crane First Fiction Award. She's been a Westport Fellow and a Claire Goodwitch Scholar, a volunteer curator in Pen Parentis for 13 magnificent years. She is currently on our board, and she will remain on our board. And she is going to keep helping us with her DEI experience and giving us oversight to our inclusive practices as an organization. I am freaking out that she's leaving as curator and as my co-host. I can't even handle it, but I have a surprise for her, and you guys get to watch her face when I tell her this. So Christina, I have 3 testimonials from people that you chose to be on this show. And the first one is from David Mura. He said, Christina Chu has been a tireless supporter of Pen Parentis. I was happy to accept her invitation to the salon, both because of my respect for her as a writer and because of her enthusiasm for Pen Parentis. She is such a warm and welcoming person. I wish her all the best in her next pursuits. David Mura.
Thank you.
And that's 1. 2, Tina Chang. Tina Chang was a poet laureate of Brooklyn, for all those out there who are not sure who this is. Tina said, I recognize Christina's devotion not only to parents, but to underrepresented writers. I pay tribute to her lifetime of powerful yet tender work.
Aww.
Tina Chang.
Thank you.
And the third one is from Trey Ellis. Dear Christina, thank you for being such a supportive and revolutionary advocate for writers raising kids. You should be enormously proud of all that you have created, and I can't wait to see what you cook up next. So,
thank you. That's very, very sweet. Thank you all.
That is you. So now let's watch you work. Let's pull up some writers. Let's see who you've got for us today.
Are you going to do the thanks to?
I'm going to pull up the people.
You're going to
pull up the people.
Okay, pull up the people. Okay,
we missed them.
4 amazing authors today. Our first author and reader will be Sheri T. Joseph. She's an award-winning and best-selling author of Edge of the Known World. Can't wait to talk to her about that book because it sounds really, really interesting. Our next reader will be Domenica Ruta. Her first novel, Last Day, was named one of the 100 notable books of the year by the New York Times. Her short fiction has appeared in the Boston Review, the Indiana Review, and Epoch. Renee Sims is our third reader. Her debut story collection is Meet Behind Mars. Her other works appear in Callaloo, the Oxford American, Ecotone, and other journals. Welcome back.
Yeah.
Our final reader is José de Piérloa. He is the author of Fabulations, Máquina del Tiempo, Pistaco Slayer, and many, many others. He's also an incredible translator. Everyone, please welcome our authors tonight. They're really darn amazing and a way to go out.
And we are very, very happy to have all of them. We are lucky to have all of them. And now I will say a thank you to our marvelous spot. First of all, I wanted to just shout out to Sergio, who's out in the audience. Hi, Sergio. Thanks for getting a nice friend ticket. And hi to Drew out there. And also,
hey, Drew, thank you.
Clydette is out there somewhere in the front row. Can you see her? She's right there in the front row. Hi, Clydette.
Hi.
And Dawn, thanks for dropping us a donation on your way in. And of course, we have to thank our longtime sponsors, poets and writers. I want to do a shout out to Ricardo because he's been so helpful during all of the grant making that's happening with poets and writers. So thank you, Ricardo. And also to the DeGroat Foundation, again, Claudette, Rockstar, and also to the Poetry Foundation. And we have public funding from the New York State Council on the Arts, who just renewed their support for us for next year. So thank God we are in New York State and that they are so pro-arts. It makes us so happy. And then the biggest sort of shout out that I have to give to sponsors this month is we want to thank Martha's Vineyard Institute of Creative Writing. They are having a summer conference. They have full fellowships that are available. They're like literally full fellowships. They cover all the aspects of this residency, and they are specifically for parents. So get out there and apply for this fellowship to go and be on Martha's Vineyard this summer. Their deadline is January 19th. So you don't have much time, but this is a very doable thing. A lot of Pen Parentis members have actually made it into this cohort. It has changed their lives. It is an absolutely worthwhile use of your time that you have so little of, you poor parents. I know how you feel, Chris. I'm one of you. Okay, that's the sponsors. Now let's do the artistic part of this. Let's go, Christina. Let's do this thing.
Okay, everyone, please welcome Sheri T. Joseph. She is an award-winning and best-selling author of Edge of the Known World. And that is saying a lot because that's her first book and she just is killing it. So everyone, please welcome Sheri T. Joseph.
Yay!
Yay! I'm very glad to be here. Edge of the Known World is a literary thriller and love story about a brilliant young refugee in a realistic near future when genetic screening tests like Ancestry.com and 23andMe mean that you can't hide a secret identity anymore. Yeah. And so at heart, though, it's a multifaceted love story about the love between brothers and a father, an adoptive father in this case, and a daughter, and about the insanity of really that romantic first love. So it's wrapped around that about family and identity. But the bottom line is you've got a brilliant 23-year-old girl who finds out when she's 16 years old that she's illegal, and she's got a genetic marker in this era that can get picked up on a genetic screen, which is standard at security screens. And if she gets caught, she's going to get sent back basically to a gulag and probably die. So that's the tension driving the story. But it is, in my mind, a love story. So I wanted to read a passage about from a section of the book where there's a love triangle developing between the girl, Alex, and two basically blood brothers, one of whom is a guy named Strav, who's a very charismatic, very hyper-articulate diplomat with severe PTSD. The scene takes place there basically up on a high platform, and she should be scoping at a political rally. She should be scoping for G-screeners that she's trying to avoid, but instead Strav comes up and distracts her. So here's the passage. A smile touched Strav's eyes. He grinned, and she was gone. No hope of coherent thought while her soul dipped and reeled in that beam. It seemed to Alex that beauty, like time and space, must have a place in Einstein's theory of relativity because she distinctly remembered that the first time she had seen Strav, before his evil reptilian phase, she had found him a good-looking, in a way she was not attracted to, maybe a one-glance face. Then he was standing in the rain, his hand over his heart, the same face mysteriously turned maybe 1 in 1,000 handsome. And now he was an unearthly Adonis, every imperfection a new definition of symmetry, and she could not understand why people did not go slack-jawed as he passed and birds swoop in for a closer look. I'll tell you the Tempest tonight, he said. It has peril, eros, and your requisite happy ending. He was a male Scheherazade, every story a thread to bind her. How he rationalized this possession with his love for his brother, she could not imagine. She thought that she had denial down to a fine art, but Strav was a veritable Leonardo, a Renaissance master of every color and nuance that Nile could take. No story tonight, she said. You need to study. Straub dismissed the plebeian concept, but she meant it. Tomorrow there was a podium with hundreds of eyes on him, and she was sick with worry for him. Study was her charm for safekeeping. Pop quiz, she said. What concept will appeal to the oligarchic self-interest we're going to hear? She watched his chin jut. One word, tax haven. That's 2 words, he huffed, possibly a compound adjective. Her hand floated to touch his face. These accelerating swings from fear to drifting fantasy, guilt, desire, euphoria, despair. Such extremes were not sustainable. One swing too high, and she would detonate, free to a wisp of smoke. Heavy boots clunked up the staircase. A burly MP stepped into the glare and unhooked his genetic screener. Alex escaped into the stairwell. The exit became a slick, steep concrete ramp, and her leather-soled pumps turned to skis. She slid into a hard stop against the exit door. The door popped open, and Alex kept going. Everything was an astonishment. The sunshine, that the exit should open to an unprotected ledge 10 feet above a gravel path, that she could be teetering at that edge, her arms beating like the pigeons, trying to defy gravity. The stately procession of dignitaries filed below her. To Alex's disbelief, a one-armed patrician gentleman was in the direct path of her fall. Then she was tumbling through space. Her greatest astonishment that somehow, single-handedly, she was about to take out the leader of the free world.
Oh my God.
Let's go.
That was a good choice of reading, because I'm like, what happened? You gotta tell us.
It's a little bit Perils of Pauline in there, you know.
Super fun.
That was wonderful. So you talk. Well, I'm gonna save this. I'm saving this question for later.
I have a question. Can I ask a question?
Yeah.
Okay. So I just want to know. So I know we don't often get people with multiple kids, and you have 3. So can you just real quick, as the expert who has created a writing career and having 3 kids,
besides being a lawyer,
a super, like what's your pithy, like, how did you manage to do that?
I really didn't. I think compared to the other panelists here, and I'm really anxious to hear from them, I think I'm kind of a cautionary tale, because I always wanted to write from the time I was a kid, right? I took it so seriously, but it's really hard, right?
Yeah.
And I think at my age, kind of looking back from all of the writing I did to finally, when I got something published, it's nothing I would really wish on anyone. It's hard for me to call it a real literary career, but I would say that there are, cliche, but it's true. There's seasons for things, and I don't feel like anything was wasted. I think the time with the kids, I think the work I've done in the nonprofit and with the housing and refugee families and all of that, if I hadn't had the passion for those things, I don't think I could have created this book. So I would just encourage people that if you really feel too crazed, to really feel like you're making big progress for any couple of years there, particularly, there's a reason for it, and it'll come out.
But you went back to it. What gave you that hook to go back to it? Because if you went away from it, like, going back is really hard.
Well, the funny thing is, I never really went away from it. The difference was trying to get published.
You just weren't sending out. You were creating.
I just wasn't sending out. I wasn't submitting things because I felt like I wasn't. I was in all the programs. I was in all the workshops.
So you were just slowly, quietly getting better secretly.
Yes. And of course, the other people here, I think, really do have full literary careers.
Let's find out.
Well,
and then we'll all talk together.
I think all the things that you did really informed you.
Yes.
And will continue to inform what you write going forward. And I think that's really important.
I said none of it's wasted. It was a constant stream of short stories and novellas and working on other novels and things like that. It all got used, and I think it was a worthwhile result.
Yeah.
It did not happen, I will say, when my kids were very little. I had 3 kids under 4. You
Oh
know,
gosh.
yeah,
And you survived. Wow.
I did survive, and they're wonderful. They're wonderful.
All right, let's talk
Wonderful.
to everybody else. I want to get everybody on this conversation, and we'll just all talk about
Yes,
all this
because I
stuff.
got questions, Sheri.
And also, hi, Sandel out there. I saw you.
Hi, Sandel. Okay, our next reader is Domenica Ruta. Her first novel, Last Day, was named one of the 100 notable books of the year by the New York Times. Her short fiction has appeared in the Boston Review, the Indiana Review, and Epic. Her essays have appeared in The Ninth Letter, New York Magazine, and elsewhere. She reviews books for the New York Times, Oprah.com, and The American Scholar, and works as an editor, curator, and advocate for solo moms at Esme.com. Everyone, please welcome our comeback, Domenica Ruta. We haven't seen her in a
Yes.
while.
Yes, we're happy to see her.
Hi, everybody. So I'm going to read from my latest book, All the Mothers. All the Mothers, and it is, as the title suggests, a lot about parenting, and we can talk about that after. I'm going to read the very first page, but a quick synopsis. All the Mothers is about 3 single moms who discover they share the same baby daddy and then finding each other on social media and how their lives change as a result. And so here is the opening scene. Wearing nothing but ankle boots and a raggedy pair of panties, Sandy sits on the seat of a lidless toilet, holding the shield of a breast pump against her left boob, and searches social media for the other woman her baby's father has a kid with. She is seething and worried this anger will somehow seep into the milk and poison her daughter, who will grow up to be a mean girl who peaks in high school, but not worried enough to stop herself and calm down. Milk collects in a plastic jar, one measly drop at a time. Her right boob leaks in sympathy with its left side sister, dribbling down the soft rolls of Sandy's stomach. The waste of those precious milliliters kills her, but only one hose of the breast pump is working right now, and she keeps forgetting to buy a replacement. She keeps forgetting to wear open front clothing to work, which is why she is pumping half naked in the same bathroom her boss uses. Again. A hideous beige nursing bra hangs from a hook on the stall door. It is unlike anything she knew existed in her before life, with the heft and durability of camping equipment, and coronas of milk stains highlighting how askew her nipples are. Next to it hangs the navy blue sack dress that seemed like such a great idea this morning. These days, no matter what choice she makes, it always seems to be wrong. She blames this on the other woman, a person her baby's father has never mentioned, not once in over a year. This is not how I dreamed my life being when I was a little girl, Sandy thinks.
I
Oh,
can't believe you're
man,
stopping.
that's
Don't
so
stop.
I'm just going to ask this quick question because I wanted to ask it before and I can't hold back. Where did you get the idea about the baby daddy thing? How did that come to you?
Well, if you want some real tea, it comes very, very, very minimally from my real life, in which I had a baby as a single woman with somebody that we chose not to become partners romantically, but to become co-parents after an unexpected pregnancy. And when my kid was 2 years old, I found out that his dad had another baby with another woman. And I didn't know anything about her. And she had heard some things about me. And we found each other on social media one day when she reached out to me because she had read my first book, which is a memoir, With or Without You, about how I grew up with a single mom. And so this other baby mama read my first book and said, I think I want to meet this other person and find out what the deal is. And we met and we cried and we became sisters that day. And we have a really fun family that's really hard to explain in a succinct way to other parents in the playground.
That's wonderful.
You're such an activist for solo moms. Like the first time I met you was at an AWP where you were being just badasses. And I mean, my God, I was so impressed. You had your child with you. You were like, this is the way it's going to be. You had absolutely no apologies. You were like, this is it. I am a writer. My child is small. Deal with it. How has your activism as a solo mom, how has that informed you as like understanding yourself as a single parent?
Well, I'm not a solo mom anymore.
I know, but it definitely,
everyone says motherhood will radicalize you. Well, single motherhood will really, really radicalize you. I mean, it's just as simple as living in New York City and, as an able-bodied person who doesn't think about ableism on a daily basis. When I became a single mom, you better believe I knew every subway that had an elevator and didn't have an elevator, because it's just me carrying that stroller up and down the stairs. And so it's a lot of little things like that have just cracked me open politically and emotionally to how hard life is for the majority of the people in this country, and how we can build community in more courageous and more sustainable ways, and how it's not a choice for single moms. You have to build community, but it is a choice for a lot of partnered parents, and trying to bridge that gap. And basically just whenever I meet a solo mom, I try to throw some, I'm like, what's your Venmo? Let me send you $25 so you can order pizza one night. You know what I mean? When you can't deal with the idea of making dinner, even if it's not a financial thing, it's a time thing and just an energy thing. Just trying to continue to advocate for single moms all the time.
That's really wonderful. Cool. Thank you. We will have more questions for you.
Yes, we will.
Sheri, while we're at it, you have a very unique way of coming to the book that you were working on. Can you briefly talk about how you came upon the idea of writing your book?
I went through the writing programs, and I was actually in I've got a family of very brilliant scientists all around me. So I'm one of the, as a lawyer, I'm kind of one of the black sheeps. But I went to to avoid being an idiot at the Thanksgiving dinner, I went to a seminar on genetic things way back before the like Ancestry and Me were getting popular. And they were talking about Hitler had actually tried to create a blood test that would detect Jews and Roma and other people like that were ethnically undesirable. And of course, he couldn't do it through a blood test, but that would have, of course, he wanted to find all the kids that looked like everybody else and were Aryan and were hiding in the open. And then when they got to the section on the 23andMe type things, it turns out that, what do you know, all of a sudden these tests exist and determine those things. Sooner or later, there's going to be another Hitler, whether it's a Stalin or whether it's a US president who's looking for ways to determine people's ethnic backgrounds, right, for all kinds of nefarious purposes. So that was the hook about recreating that type of terror which felt very real to me from my family history coming out of Russia and everything, of that sense of hiding in the open, but knowing that if you got detected, you would get sent away to a really bad fate. And what if you couldn't hide it anymore? Passport. Mm-hmm. And of course, the horror of it is that when I was writing this, it was pre-COVID, and it was certainly before all the deportation things. The horror of it now. I mean, it's difficult for me to get my mind around how the country could have jumped to where we are right now in the time it took me to write this and get it published. It looks crazy relevant, but the funny thing is that when I was writing it, it wasn't.
Mm-hmm. Prescient.
Yeah,
Well, I was
exactly.
concerned. I knew I had done a lot of research, but I was concerned people wouldn't think it was even plausible. So
Hmm.
anyway, that's how I came around to it.
It's like
Cool.
total chills just now, like spooky,
It
spooky,
feels that way, right?
spooky
But
where
it's
we
also
are.
kind of I know that when I was first approaching agents and things, pitching it, the fact that it was in the middle of COVID, it was a real issue because there was a post pandemic issue in there, and the timing was hard. But then it flipped, and all of a sudden, 23andMe and everything is a hot topic, which is just a lesson in writing with some passion and trying to avoid the trends, right?
Yeah.
Writing
Yeah.
what's in your heart.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
So I'm going to introduce our third reader, and I would like her and Jose, after they read, to talk about how they came up with their ideas as well. Renee Sims, her debut story collection is Meet Behind Mars. Her other works appear in Callaloo, The Oxford American, Ecotone, Literary Hub, Southwest Review, North American Review, The Rumpus, Salon. She is a 2018 National Endowment for the Arts Creative Writing Fellow, a 2018 Breadloaf Fiction Fellow, and has received support from the Kimbilio Fiction, Ragdale, Vermont Studio Center, and a Penn Center. Here, she's a comeback to Pen Parentis. We have not seen her in a while, and we are very happy to have her.
She's so nice.
Everyone,
also, this, wait, I'm pointing at it. See this QR code? This QR code connects you to everybody's books. So feel free to just QR code yourself a couple of books, like 4, let's say.
Christmas
Let's
is
start with
coming.
4. Go on, Renee.
Thank you, Christina and Milda. So I'm going to read a work in progress.
Yes, I love works in progress.
Yeah!
Premiere. We should have like confetti glitter like they do on YouTube, like it's a premiere. It's a premiere.
Well, I've gotten edits back, so
Yeah.
I'm still working on it. And it's creative nonfiction, so it is a cultural history of an American neighborhood. I'm writing about the neighborhood where I grew up, which was formed really kind of in 1970. So 3 years after a race riot in Detroit, when everyone left the city, including my family. A bunch of us ended up in this neighborhood, which was right on the border. It's a first ring suburb
in Detroit.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Okay.
So this is just a scene from it. I woke at midnight just in time to pick up Paul from work. He was a manager back then at a chain drugstore. I was unemployed and a new mother with a 3-month-old baby. I remember looking in the bassinet at our sleeping infant. Should I wake him and possibly make him uncomfortable, I thought, or should I let him slumber until I get back home? The store was a 15-minute drive from our apartment. As tired and delirious as I was, I thought clearly enough to put Amir in the car seat and carry him out to the car. I drove the dark streets with the baby in the back. The city's adobe homes and stores stood like sentinels of light and shadow as I passed. I pulled up to the curb in front of the store and waited for Paul to come out. Our leased car that we had driven from Detroit to LA had been repossessed years earlier. The car I was driving that night was old and had fake tags because we could not afford to renew our registration. After several minutes, Paul walked out onto the sidewalk in his blue smock and tie, his hard, shiny shoes. He looked extremely thin, but I was skinny too. We were enduring things that I will never publicly share, stories that I'll pass along as a warning, but only from mouth to ear. I watched him pull down the iron gates over the glass entrance to the store, then use a key to lock the gate. When he got into the car, he exhaled. He laid back in the passenger seat and closed his eyes. How was work? I asked. It was wild. I mean, it's always wild, but it was wild tonight. What happened? I'll tell you. Start the car and let's go, he said. I turned the ignition and slowly pulled off. 2 dudes came through the roof and into the warehouse at the back of the store. Paul began. They came down on a rope. They tied up 2 of my employees. These fools had planned to rob the store, but one of the checkers walked past the storage room and saw the other employees tied up, and she ran back to the front of the store screaming and alerted the entire crew. The combination of cool breeze coming through my cracked window and my bone-deep weariness made the car seem like it was floating, like the ride was surreal. Maybe Paul and I were on the wrong path. Maybe we needed to make more money. I remembered reading somewhere that money had never created Black liberation, but hiding in a forest had. I slid my right hand over Paul's left. His fingers were cold, but he gripped my hand with strength. Anything else happen? I asked. Gary Coleman came in tonight to buy a bucket and a mop. The actor from Different Strokes? Yeah, Paul replied. I drove my young family through Culver City, down Venice Boulevard, and into the neighborhood known as Palms. Our neighborhood had scores of apartment buildings, each window a private portal into the lives of strangers who, like us, had likely moved to LA from somewhere else. I fought the panic constricting my chest as I drove. Our apartment, where we paid $1,400 a month in rent, which was a lot of money in the year 2000, was tucked away at the end of a street near the 101 freeway and a corner store. Just like the Detroit neighborhood where I had grown up, this neighborhood existed on a precarious border. At times like this, I was convinced that God was a comedy writer. That night, the divine writer had thrown us an aging child star, a robbery, a sleeping baby, and little traffic. Without cars crowded all around, my one working headlight illuminated the diverse foliage in the yards. I named each indigenous and imported plant in my head to keep calm as I drove. Bougainvillea, palm tree, meadow hedge, olive tree, manzanita, orange tree, agave. Each plant grew despite the Southern California conditions I knew intimately, like cracked sidewalks and trash. More than merely grow, each bush and tree showed up in full bloom, pompous and unafraid of night.
That's
Beautiful.
so beautiful.
Thank you
That was
so
beautiful.
much. Thank
Oh
you.
my God. And what a crazy night that was. Was that normal?
What a crazy
was that
night.
like a normal
Oh,
thing?
the
Just
California
like,
stories, right?
no, the robbery with the rope guys.
Yeah. And
I-
the Gary Coleman thing.
I love that you knew to ask anything else. Like, I'm like, anything else? Isn't that enough? Like,
Yeah.
So how did you get come up with the idea for this book?
So kind of to respond to Sheri about, it taking a long time and living through life and having many different experiences. I've been trying to write this book for, it feels like my entire life. And I finally sold it in 23.
awesome.
But yeah, it's just, I knew that I had grown up in a special place. I knew that the neighborhood, was unique because we integrated this neighborhood in this suburb, right? So it was 1970, there had been this race riot, and then you have people integrating. And also there were Motown stars like that lived in the neighborhood. And so Smokey Robinson lived there and the Temptations lived there and
Oh my
a
God.
mix of people. So I knew it was an important experience, but I didn't know how to tell it, and it took many years to finally tell it, and then to know how to pitch it. Right.
I was going to ask, like, what was your pitch or what was your hook to get people to want to
I think the Motown stars kind of sold it. And there also was a documentary on one of the drug dealers who was like a major kingpin who worked with the Gambino families. He lived down the street too, right? So there had been a film about him also. So yeah, and it became a historic neighborhood. So it's listed.
It's so good. That's a thing that creative writing does so well, is that it's able to take something that commercial fiction would just cut it down to just only being about the stars, or only being about the crime guy, or only being about the race. And the great creative writer can just put it all in and be like, no, you don't understand. This is life. Life is a mess. It's complicated. It's complex. And that is so great.
Thank you for saying that, Milda, because I think like with the challenge of AI, right? Like, yeah, that's what we do. And I think, that's what artificial intelligence cannot do yet.
Yeah. It will either give us everything and it has no value, or it gives us the mediocrity. It's like, it's a race to the mediocre. Who can get the most middle? Like, what is the most middle thing? And
that you can come up with. But I have learned to be patient, to go back to what Sheri was saying, because for so long I wanted to be able to tell this story, but I could never quite figure out, the complexity and how to tell it. And it just took many, many tries.
I love the energy in it, the constant like balls that you have going in the air. It's
Thank you.
Just great.
The end the end of that passage is so lovely. And the way you keep the motion traveling, and you name the trees, and the visual of it, and that sense of passage, it's something.
Do you have a publication date yet, or a prospective time? Towards which?
I think it's going to change, because it was supposed to be fall 26, but I just got edits back, and these are first edits. So I don't know.
Like sometime in 26, 27, but like early 27 maybe? Or late 26.
I hope. I would still like to make the fall deadline if we can. I think it's probably unrealistic.
Nothing's unrealistic. Throw yourself in. Head first.
We are looking forward to it.
Yes, we are. It's going to be really cool.
Yay.
This is fun. I can't wait. I want to get everybody on the screen. So we have to like all the reading.
Our final reader is José de Piérloa. He's the author of Fabulations, Manquina del Tiempo, Pistaco Slayer, Un Beso del Inferno. Sorry, I'm garbling this. I'm trying.
I want a Beso del Inferno.
Summa Caligrammatica, Sur y Norte, El Camino de Regreso, and Chatrange. Is that right? Chatrange. El Juego de los Reyes. He's translated into Spanish. The Stranger by Albert Camus, Dracula by Bram Stoker, and The Art of Fiction by Walter Besant and Henry James. He is also translated from Spanish Maria Arguedas. His novel Un Beso del Inferno won the Short Novel Prize awarded by the Reserve Bank of Peru. His short story In the Belly of the Night won the Max Aub International Short Story Award in Spain. Wow. And his short story Le Pis won the Short Story Biennial Award awarded by COPE in Peru. So everyone, please welcome José de Piérloa. We're really excited to finally have you.
Woo! Finally! Yay!
Thank you for the invitation. I want to say hello to Sergio Troncoso, a great writer from El Paso, in the audience. So hello, Sergio. I want to also thank everybody for being present. Before I read, I want to thank Domenica for her work advocating for single mothers. My mother was a single mother, and I understand and I've seen firsthand the challenge that it is to raise a kid, earn a living, and keep your head together and keep the spirit. So thank you, Domenica. I'm going to read one of the pieces from Fabulations. It's a collection of stories that mix history, fable, and fiction. And some of the stories are very short, like this one. Others are longer. So I hope that this gives a sense of what the book is about. Illuminations. One night from his bed, he saw what seemed to be a white luminous sheet wrapped like the petals of a flower around the black lampshade of his ceiling lamp. He didn't worry. Probably an optical illusion caused by a car pulling up by the sidewalk. His headlights, refracted by the window glass and then filtered by the slats in the blinds, must have been the source of such a trick of light. The following night, he saw the luminous flower again. Still, he didn't worry. Someone might park a car in the same spot 2 nights in a row. The gears of life sometimes slip, repeating a moment that feels like an omen, but that on reflection reveals no meaning at all. On the third night, he knew it wasn't a cosmic slip. He brought a chair from his dining room and placed it beneath the ceiling lamp, but as soon as he climbed onto the seat, the luminous flower vanished. He could only see inside the shade, secured to the ceiling by 3 silver screws, the bare bulb as it has always been, though at times its lonely light seemed to shiver. He tried to put the matter out of his mind as he showered, shaved, and dressed. Yet every time he caught the lamp from the corner of his eye, there it was again, the thick, luminous petals gathered around the black shade. He dismissed the idea of seeing a doctor. His last checkup had found him in excellent health. He didn't need to see the eye doctor either. 3 months ago, after a thorough exam, she had told him that his vision was as good as one could expect for someone his age. He just needed new glasses. Seeing a psychiatrist felt frankly disconcerting, if not frightening. What if he prescribed something extreme, say, for everyone's sake, locking him up so his vision would be on anyway? So he told no one about the flower under the ceiling. Perhaps his life would have gone on like that is, until its natural end, had it not been for the sunny spring morning when he discovered that the lamp on his nightstand had also grown a set of petals. They weren't white, but dark, velvety red, the color of dry blood on white linen. It goes without saying that when he, sitting on his bed, still in pajamas but already disentangled from the sticky ligaments of sleep, reached for the petals, they vanished. He showered, shaved, and dressed, constantly aware of the petals above the nightstand. Every time he drew near, they vanished. Like the white flower on the ceiling, the new red flower on his nightstand didn't alter the rhythm of his life, nor in any way diminish his mental faculties, as clearly shown by the number of files in his outbox tray at the end of the day. So he carried on, ignoring the flowers. But it wasn't long before the lamp on his office desk, a round aluminum shade perched on a thin insect-like arm, grew shiny petals like solid quicksilver. No sooner he had stepped away, say, to fetch files from the general inbox, than the glistening petals appeared around the lamp. As soon as he returned, they vanished. Shortly after, a colleague peered over the cubicle partition and asked, "Everything all right?" "Of course," he said. "Why do you ask? You seem a bit off lately." "I never felt better." His boss, too, asked him, "Everything all right?" "Splendid," he said. "Thank you." A few days later, his neighbor, an elderly lady who always walked her Pomeranian, just as he was coming back from the office, asked him, "Are you all right, neighbor?" He gave a little bow. "Never felt better. Thank you." But the more emphatic his answers, the shaker he felt inside. Not a day went by without another light sprouting petals. The tiny blue light in the stereo panel, the headlights of passing cars, the street lamps. Soon, even the massive orange sphere of the setting sun grew magnificent petals, gigantic petals that spread across 1/3 of the sky, like reddish planets in conjunction. Some evenings, eating a microwave dinner alone, surrounded by all those silent flowers, he wished he had someone to talk to, truly talk to, about the flowers, about the passing of time, the infinite emptiness he felt inside from time to time. His wife had been the only one who had really listened to him. She would understand. Fortunately, no one knew about the flowers. What is more, they didn't interfere with his duties at the office. He was still 30 years on, the inexhaustible file examiner whose red seal, bearing his name in tiny capitals, was as respected as it was feared. On the other hand, no matter how intricate the flowers, how seductive the texture of the petals, or how vivid their colors, they always vanished when he drew near. During those shaky weeks, his daughter came to visit, taking advantage of a work trip. Over spaghetti she'd cooked, she asked, "You seem distracted, Dad. Everything okay?" "Ah," he said, "it's nothing. Just getting used to the new glasses, that's all." "Dad, you'll tell me if there's something wrong, right?" "Of course I would. I worry about you, living all by yourself so far away." "My job," he said. "I couldn't possibly leave it." Then one morning, after waking up under the usual white flower, he couldn't recognize his room. Flat surfaces more than a few yards away seemed to ripple like water stirred by the wind. The wall at the foot of the bed and the ones at the sides could very well be made of translucent iridescent liquid. His room was a glass wall underwater station surrounded by sea anemones. But he knew, somehow, that as soon as he got close enough, the wavering iridescent surfaces would regain their opaque solidity of earthy walls. It was just a matter of getting used to it.
Oh,
Beautiful.
beautiful.
The imagery is amazing.
That's beautiful.
Yeah.
The magic in it. Real,
so great.
just love the magic quality. Like you could feel the sprinkling of magic happening. Really beautiful. Those petals and the sun. Oh my God, how amazing would that be? So tell us, how did you get the ideas for this story?
For this story in particular, my mother began in her late 90s, began suffering from slight form of dementia. And at that moment, she was still able to converse and make sense of everything. But I imagine what it would be like to be in her place. And trying to follow not the straight line of documenting what was going on, but trying to use the sort of indirection that poetry can do and fiction can also do. I try to write this story, trying to show in a very oblique way what it might be like.
Yeah.
So thinking about the other stories in this book, which try to address in the same way different issues that might be relevant to me or to our time.
Great, thank you. You know how people say, "Oh, that could never happen," right? Like, oh, that, when sometimes that people tell writers, "Oh, that's just not believable." But anything can happen at this point. It seems like real life is more unbelievable than fiction these days, and yet the beauty of the flowers, like for him to be able to, like if he's seeing something, it's just so beautiful that it's
What's
that.
amazing is that your writing makes us see it, whether or not it's real in the real world. Like we can see it. It's beautifully.
The
crafted.
images are just gorgeous.
Beautiful.
Yeah, and one thing that is interesting
Gorgeous.
too is that our perception of the world is very partial, and most of it is just a construction that we create, and what we feel or perceive might become real to us, whether others see it or not.
It is interesting that the way that you've written it is very real, and that the fact that he is hiding it from other people makes it even more real, right?
Well, it's his. He
yeah.
owns it. Like he doesn't share it. If he did, people would tell him he's crazy. But this way, it's just this beautiful gift.
Yeah. Let's pull everybody back up and let's talk. Let's talk about what it's like to have kids and write and be, out there in the world. I'm going to start you off with a really fun question. I guess maybe it's a fun question. I don't know. Have you ever had occasion to tell your kids that you're a writer? Like, what was the first time when they were little that you actually kind of came out and said, "Oh yeah, because I'm a writer. That's why, because I'm a writer," or something like that? Can you remember that moment? Sheri, you laugh. Maybe you remember it vividly.
I think my kids were used to me going off and on kind of the ozone, spending a lot of time in La La Land and daydreaming and things like that. But I may be older than everyone here. My kids may be older. And
well, we can run through how old the kids are. We don't need to talk about how old we are.
but my point is, and maybe you guys have all experienced this too, there comes a time when they actually read your stuff.
Yeah.
Right. And I discovered that, for one thing, they always assume that it's about them, even if it doesn't have anything to do about them, right? You know, it's just funny. But then there are other, you know, you have to
All three of them read your stuff?
Oh yeah, definitely. Yeah. And, you know, there's a fair amount of, because I see it as a real love story, and I did try to write, it's about mostly people in their 20s. And I tried to write pretty frankly about the sex and things like that, sometimes a lot of humor in it. But, you know, they all said they loved it and everything like that. But then my daughter's a great actress, and she's got a beautiful voice. And when it came time for the audiobook, I suggested, they all said they loved the book and everything, that maybe I could pitch her as the narrator for it. And
nice of you.
Well, I meant it, you know. I mean, of course, to me, she's, you know, she's this, you know, she's a wonder. I couldn't imagine anybody doing a better job. But her instant comment back to me was, "There is no way in hell I am reading my mother's sex scenes out loud." And I realized,
fair.
I made a really
Very fair. Yeah.
He's not wrong.
So anyway, they were kind of aware of it all the way along. But
That's
yeah,
so
you have to
funny.
think about, I don't know whether
Right.
it's the right thing to think about it or not. You may not write, honestly, right? You know, if you do. But
Did anybody else remember telling their kids?
My kids fully don't care that I'm a writer. They could not be less impressed. I was.
Wait, no, how old are they? No, they're
They're still very young. Both of my kids
Yeah.
are still in elementary school,
Yeah.
and so my kindergartner, when I got, when I got my box of books from the publisher, and I was
Unboxing.
opening it, and I was showing, and my 5-year-old was home, my older kid wasn't, and I said, "Look, honey, look," and he said, "Mama, did you draw that picture?"
Oh.
And I said, "No, I wrote the book inside. An artist drew the picture," and he was like, "Oh," and he walked away. He was like, "That's not cool." And then with my oldest, once, it was very humbling. We were in a thrift store, and they had a copy of one of my books in the thrift store, like reselling. And I said, "Look, baby, look, that's your last name. That's me. That's us." And he was like, "Cool." And then, like, "Can we go get lunch now?" And I yeah, okay. So
Yeah, I mean,
my experience is just like yours, and but it's even sadder because my children are 25 and 20. They don't care. Like their mother, I've been writing their whole lives, so I don't remember, you know, the first moment that they realized I was a writer. But I remember when my son said to me, "When are you going to finish your book?" And I was like, "Oh, you're fine." And then a couple weeks ago, he shared that his girlfriend was like, "Oh my God, your mom's a writer? Like, what's the name of her book?" And he couldn't remember.
well, you know what? Don't feel bad, because recently George Clooney came out and said that, you know, when his kids found out he was an actor, they're like, who cares?
Kids don't
Well,
Well,
care.
about Batman, that's right. I heard the same
Right?
thing. Like, they were very unimpressed that he was the worst Batman ever.
I usually publish, actually, most of my books are published back in Peru. I'm from Peru. And when I was, you know, going to Peru for book releases and all of that, my two daughters have gone through the process of being in the book release and getting bored, and they start running around, and they just keep asking, go to the front when I'm reading, or asking, "Well, when is this going to end?" That's the question. So, and then at one moment, both of them asked me, "You know, what do you do in the whole day?" And I said, "I sit and write." And they said, "That's boring." But the beautiful moment was a couple of years ago when I brought my youngest daughter to Peru, essentially to spend time with my mom. We were in a bookstore, and she saw one of my books, and she said, Papa, is this your book? And I said, that's my
Aw.
name. And she said, wow, you're a writer. Right at that moment.
Wow,
So,
the awe.
yeah,
I did
exactly.
it. That's awesome. That's really cool.
Wow.
But it's difficult, right, for somebody who grows up with a writer, because writing needs a lot of time
Yeah.
and a lot of alone time, which is hard to sometimes to
Yeah. Yeah, you
Yeah.
have to negotiate that very much. One of the things that we do in Pen Parentis is there's accountability groups where people can discuss their process and explore various different kinds of ways that they might finish their book, so that there's not just one person saying, like, you have to do it this way because it works for
Right.
them, right? And that the internet is always giving you, like, if you don't do 250 words a day, you suck, and
Yeah.
that can't work for every single, just like all the parenting tips are not going to work for every single
That's
person.
right.
And
Yeah.
so, like, part of the reason why there are so many of you on the screen is so that we get to say, which I'm about to do, give a tip from your own experience that worked for you. It's not going to work for everybody, but it might work for 7 people. And that would be amazing. 7 more books that got written.
Yeah.
Do you- Yeah.
I also, like, what I always tell people is the greatest skill of a writer who's also a parent is flexibility.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm a creature who would love to have a schedule. I would love to have a routine, and it's just not possible at this. As Sheri was saying, there's different phases of parenting.
Mhm.
The phase of parenting I'm at, I mean, I really don't know one day to the next what's going to happen, because at any given time, someone comes home sick from school, or that was my writing day. Right. And then there's like a million holidays and half days and professional development days and that I
Yeah.
always forget about. And so really it's about flexibility, and that sometimes early in the morning works, sometimes it does not. Sometimes it's weekends actually, when I can get time to work, when, and my best writing friend is YouTube, because it keeps my kids very quiet.
Yeah, because kids are like, what? This doesn't include me? Like, you're going to do something without me? And
That's
yes,
probably why they think all of our stories are
this
about
is what
that.
the iPad is for,
Ah,
I mean, if I were to
Go ahead.
advise anybody, when I was in grad school, one of the things that was interesting is that we had a structure and we had daycare. But if you don't have that structure, then it's hard to have a block of time. But if I were to do things over again, I would just spend less time writing and more time with my kids when they were younger. Because now that they are teenagers and one of them is 20, I want to spend more time with them. They don't want to spend time with me.
They will again. They will again. I think it's all very, very cyclical. It seems to be in the world that but also it's a thing where when we want them, they don't want us, sort of like all the time. Or the opposite.
But I think there's a lot of truth to that, Jose. I mean, they have their own lives. They don't need you, so they have their friends and they just can go out, and there you are with your book.
Renee, did you have well, at least you have a life. That's nice, right? To be able to be like, okay, I have a book tour, so that's fine that you don't want to go to lunch with me. Bye.
Yeah, I think flexibility is a really good piece of advice. And I always think of Lucille Clifton and what she said about writing the short piece. Like, just to know that you can only write what you can, especially when you have young children. And if you have young children and you're a single parent, right?
Yeah.
So write the short pieces until you can write the longer form.
Yeah.
That's
or
a great tip.
And just like write a lot of stuff that you don't, because honestly, so much of our writing career is taken up by marketing, publicity, updating your blog, updating your website, getting new headshots, doing all this. all of the publicity stuff that's only about publishing and not about actually writing new work or creating anything generative. A lot of the people that come to us have not generated something new in years. Like they just haven't written a new sentence. They've rewritten stuff. Like they have a lot of Trump stories that they wrote in grad school or that they wrote on some vacation that, you know, they want to turn into something, but they haven't like sat down and written something new. And that's like one of the reasons that we have a fellowship that has like a very, very low word. It's like it's usually under 500 words, not just under 1,000, but like super short, because we want people to like generate something, like realize that you still have talent in there, that it's a muscle. And
I remember when we had Matt Johnson on, one of his tips was always keep your foot in the door. Like never quite close that door, because then you're starting from zero again, right? Like, but if you kind of sort of dip your foot in constantly, it's like still kind of going and there's momentum a little bit. So I thought that was a great advice as well.
That's really good. Sergio, out there in Viewerland, would like to say, as parents, how do we encourage serious, deep reading in our children or the younger generation? Why should they value reading? I love the readings, by the way, Jose. I'll be in El Paso next week. I can slip that in there. Now everybody knows Sergio. So what do you do to encourage your children to read? Or do you encourage your children to read?
Well, it's funny. I see the issue of reading. It has become really performative, competitive parenting. And I see it as a deeply classist. I mean, everything has, but it can become very classist, you know, where I am a good parent. I am an educated parent. Which is another way to say I am an affluent parent. Therefore, my children read this many, you know, volumes and volumes and volumes of books. I grew up in a working class environment where there were no books, no one read to me, and I loved to read. And I'm living this flip side reality where I have these kids who have the life I had always wanted as a kid, and they don't really care about reading. You know, they'll do it if it's homework. They love being read to.
They like the stories, right? The narratives.
They love being read to, but if they have free time, they do not want to pick up a book and just be by themselves and read. That is not interesting. That's not their personality. And I have had to learn to really puncture my own ego as a writer, as a parent, and accept that what if to be an intellectual citizen of this world, to be a member of the community, that we don't all need to be deep, serious readers. You know, that just because I value reading.
Being alone. Because reading is inherently solitary.
And not everyone is
not, and like when you're a kid, it's not solitary because somebody's reading to you.
Right. It's
so
very
there's
simply.
this, like togetherness part. And I read to my children long past they could read, long past forever, just to keep the peace at the breakfast table, because the breakfast table was chaos and I needed to have it be quiet so that I could not kill everybody. And so I would just read every morning. I would just read, and I was reading like way beyond anybody's, like, you know, I was reading like classics and Dickens and I don't even know, all kinds of whatever I felt like reading. And but it was social, and they're both kind of nominally readers. They're not like me. Like they're not going to go climb a tree and like stay there for 6 years until they're finished their life.
You know, I also think, Domenica, I think you bring up a really good point, because we have to accept that some kids will not want it. That's not what they want to do. That's not, in their, genetic makeup. You know what I mean? Like some kids love to read. My older son loved, like I couldn't get him away from books. My younger son literally flat out said, I hate it,
Christina.
I hate it. And I mean, I was like, it took a moment to like really digest that. But I really had to accept that, like, he's not me. He doesn't, his wants and needs are not mine.
Right.
So I had to recognize what he needed.
Yeah. I mean, I really love yoga and my kids aren't interested in yoga. And I don't take it as a value judgment as a parent that my kids don't enjoy yoga. I don't think that I've failed or that they're failing or that we don't have this same interest. And for many people, reading is just an interest and a pastime. For me, it is a passion. It is a reason for living. It saved my life. My kids don't have that life, you know? And also for me, it was a way to check out. You know, it was a reality.
Get away from,
reality was really painful when I was a kid. And so I would lose myself in books. And my kids have a very different reality. They're like, can we just all hang out?
I don't have the young kids anymore, but with what I see with friends and nieces and nephews and all of that it's just a different era about the competition for their eyes and their attention, right? And why wouldn't a kid be more excited by some of these video games are great, right?
There's really good storytelling.
The YouTube stuff is great, and they can control the narrative on these things. They're doing some of their own storytelling. So some of it seems to me a question of how much parental control you have over your kid's screen time. If you're the kind of parent that's really gonna forbid screen time, especially at bedtime and in their bedroom, they might be kind of forced to read in a funny way because they don't have the alternatives. But I would never pass judgment on anybody. You do what you have to do to get through.
And also because
I think we can only control so much because I read to both of my kids, and probably my eldest the most, right? Because he had 5 years to himself, but he could care less about books. He just, he's not interested in it. But he's, he identifies as male, right? And so there's that. He had a different experience in education, a very different experience, and it's the masculinity piece, I think. My daughter loves to read, and she probably got less reading time with me because I was busier then. So I think it just depends on what you're drawn to, and the home can try to do a lot of things for you. But at the end of the day, you still have to go out into society, and it's going to shape you too. I also grew up in a home that didn't have books, but I was always reading.
That's similar to my experience because I read to both of my daughters, and the oldest one is a reader. The youngest one is not as much a reader, but there's also the component that times are changing right now. For whatever circumstances, I seem to have traversed 3 centuries because I grew up in a small Andean town without television and without electricity. So the entertainment options were very limited. And we also only had about 6 or 7 books at home. My mom read to me every night 1 chapter of each novel. So that was my entertainment too, and my initiation to reading. But that's something that...
Were there libraries? Did you have a library where you could get...
There was not a library in town, So imagine those possibilities sort of force you to become either a reader or somebody who lives in your imagination and become a part of this world. One of the books were Tom Sawyer, the other one was Huckleberry Finn.
Wow.
And I imagine the stories happening in my small town, especially because I could just go around. I was 5 or 6 and I could go around the whole town because I knew everybody knew me, and there was a river nearby. So all of those stories
very Sawyer-y.
I couldn't relieve the stories there. But now in this time when there is screens all over the place, and every screen is just vying for the child's attention, is very hard to compete with that. So I think that unfortunately, unless things change radically, we're entering in something of a digital dark ages again, in which mostly we're going to become a more are going to mostly listen to and talk to screens rather than work with books.
But there's still writers. Even if there's screens, there are still writers, and there are still shows that are really worthwhile watching and shows that are absolute garbage that are fun. And, and they're like, and so like it goes from the fluff to the super serious, just like books have always gone. And what were we talking, which was it with Sheri? With the or maybe it was Domenica, like the narrative, like there's still a story, and the
There's
kids,
story in those
like
things. That's right.
humans love a good story. Humans crave a good story, and it's fun to listen to. One. Okay, I have another weird question. What was the first dollars that you made on a story? What was the first sale that you made? Can you remember the first sale that you made, and like what was it? How did that feel?
It wasn't a lot of money. I remember that.
Never.
I think North American Review, that was the first short story I published, and I think they paid me something.
And were you just like, oh, now I'm a writer? Or were you already?
I was like, oh my God, this is like nothing. And it took forever to get it. I feed my family. Yeah.
I think I sold my first short story in 2009 to Epic, which is out. And I think I got like $100. And then just this year, I got a story published in the Iowa Review, and I think I got $100. So that's,
inflation is
in like 15 years, it's the same. And then I think there was a scene in Little Women where Jo March sells her first short story.
Like $100.
And she gets $100. And it's like, and I'm like, yeah, I don't think they're raising prices on short stories anymore. I think it just sort of happened out.
I remember that scene
in the 1800s. And like, we haven't really gotten more since.
That is so true.
I was very lucky because when I started writing in my late 30s. I went to school to be an engineer, and I worked in computer consulting for about 12 years before I started really writing seriously. And when I started writing, I started sending my stories to all the competitions in Latin America and Spain, because I write in Spanish. And one of my stories won this very prestigious prize in Spain, and I couldn't believe it. It was unbelievable. So it was good money too, and they flew me back to Spain.
Wow.
And out of what I really value the most is that.
Wait, is this the one where you met the Queen? Did you meet the Queen also?
No.
Oh. Because Emily Rabichaud got flown to Spain and met the Queen during
It would have been interesting.
story contest. Yeah.
But the best part of the prize was that they had a Spanish artist creating a sculpture for the winner, and that's the thing I value the most, more than the money they probably, because it's an original piece of art that reminds me of that moment. I was extremely lucky, because I've been part of juries for competitions, and I know that when you have the 10 runners up, anyone could actually be the winner.
Sheri, how about you?
Well, the royalty check from this was the first one, and I do remember, because I run a company that does and so I'm involved with a lot of some of these housing construction things and developments and the services and the homelessness. I mean, I'm familiar with very, very big budgets, right? So I took it and I made the big mistake, and it looked like a fair amount of money to me, and I was jumping up and down, and then I did the math on what it came out to per hour.
Oh no! Oh, you didn't? Oh no!
Never did the math. Don't do that.
And I think somebody, was talking about a humbling experience. It wasn't even humbling. You just had to fall over laughing, right? So, but to your point, whether it's the $100 that hasn't changed, it still was remarkable that it felt like it somehow justified, it might have been negative 10 cents per hour for the last however many decades, but it still did justify the effort in a way that really surprised me. It wasn't
well,
just
it is recognition, right? It
was a validation.
It's a real
that
career, right?
I'd rather get a sculpture though. I'm
New literary magazine.
More of like art barter,
How cool would that be, you guys, if there was a literary magazine where you had like artists that would make individual art for whatever story got accepted, and then that's what you would get paid in. You get
I would,
paid.
that'd be really
That
cool.
would be the coolest. Okay, are you listening, Niska? That's what I want to do. I love that idea. That would be so cool. Listen, you guys, we're at the end of our hour.
No, wait, no, I still have one more question.
Okay, one more question. One more question. This is really a good group.
No,
I'm
you
going
can-
to talk
I
all
so
day.
so
Okay, go
okay.
ahead.
So sometimes life can be really discouraging. Like if you get like a letter that's one of those not nice letters that
No,
is
one
like
of those.
you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, we know.
One of those. How do you stay inspired and passionate when you have those moments and you're in the doldrums and you just feel like, why am I a writer? Because I don't have a choice, right? But no, come on. How do you stay passionate and in love with the work? And, what do people do when they feel down and discouraged?
So for me, it's community. Like it's talking with other writers, because I usually find out that what I think is, I'm not going to generalize and say that all writers are like this. This is me. I'll internalize it. Like, oh my God, nobody loves me and I'm no good and they're going to cancel my contract. Right? Like I can just spiral like that. And then I talk to other people and they've had the same experience or worse. Right? So talking to other people and getting out of my own head and my own little space always kind of, because I love writing. I will never stop writing. I will write even if I'm not getting paid. But there are challenging moments, but when I talk to other people who are on the same journey, then I feel inspired again.
That's
Great.
awesome. That's a really good. Yeah.
I have to really separate capitalism from creation,
Mm.
because capitalism will just make you feel so bad that even if you're doing well by a lot of standards, it never ever will feel good enough, because capitalism has such a narrow definition of
Yeah,
success.
because the intern over at whatever the bank is making like 800 times what you're making
Right.
to start for showing up
Right?
and getting free coffee.
Yeah.
Right. But when that feeling I get when I'm all alone and no one cares what I'm writing, but I really nailed that sentence or that image or that description, and that feels so good. And I have to just keep reminding myself that that is what's driving me, and that
success.
capitalism occasionally conspires with me, often doesn't, but that's not the driving force.
Yeah.
I agree with that, because the work itself, to me, becomes a reward if you see it that way.
Yeah.
If you see writing as a means to something else, then you're more likely to be frustrated than if you just see it as a practice. And to me, I've been very fortunate, because I've been, on the one hand, I've been able to choose to become a writer. I used to be a computer consultant and make really good money. And at one moment, I said, I'm going to leave that. I'm going to be student again, and I'm going to become a writer in my 30s. And everybody thought I was absolutely crazy. But I was trying to get to the privilege of being able to do what I do now, sit down and work with words, with sentences, with paragraphs. Like Domenica says, having this moment of elation when a paragraph finally clicks, right? That you cannot really share that with anybody but with you. And that's the little engine that keeps me going. And the other for me, the other source of inspiration is my mother. She was a single mother. She started working when she was 12, and she didn't complete her elementary school even. So seeing that she worked all her life, every day, just to keep things going, whereas I have this enormous privilege of just getting in the morning, having coffee or whatever, and start working with words. That to me is such a big reward, that everything that happens after this is great.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I mean, I watched this show once, and I can't remember which dancer it was, but there was this famous dancer that it was on a PBS show. I was like 10, but it still stuck with me. But the artist said, people survive. They go to work, they do their job, they get paid, and they survive. But writers and artists, we live, we
Oh,
are
lovely.
living. And that's such a huge difference.
That's so beautiful.
It is
Right.
like when the whole day goes by and you've been sitting in your pajamas
That's
writing,
right.
right? And you're
Yes.
happy because you mastered that paragraph that you've been struggling with. There's nothing. It's like dopamine, right? We're just
Yeah.
nothing else feels like that.
Yeah.
Right?
Exactly.
And I also, like Sheri and Jose left. I was a lawyer, right? And I also was older and decided, no, I'm going to do what I'm passionate about. And you're right. It is a privilege to be able to do this.
Yeah.
It really
Oh,
is.
my friends. Oh, my friends. I could just literally, I could stay here all night. This is really fun. And this jazzes me because you guys are my community. Like, this is so wonderful. Let us please all join me in thanking Christina for her amazing 13 years with us and all the things. And in January, we're going to have 3 poets. It's our annual poetry salon. We have Teresa Burns, Teresa Zielowitz, and Diana Whitney. So that'll be fun. And of course, we have to, again, thank Poets and Writers, the DeGroat Foundation, the Poetry Foundation, and NISCA for funding us. And very big thanks to Martha's Vineyard Institute of Creative Writing. Go out there and get that parent fellowship so that you can come up here when you've published your book. Thank you all. Thank you guys so much. Sheri, Domenica, Jose, Renee, thank you so much. And Christina, all my love to you. Thank you so much for all the work that you've put in on the salon over all of this time. Everybody wave because we're going to go. So bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, thank you, everybody.